Touchdown Tampa Bay, you're listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined as always by my friend Ren Daxt, looking a little sun-kissed out there today. Buddy, how you doing?
I'm good. Are we now the Castle and Beckett of Buccaneers podcast?
I have no idea what that means.
Do you remember the TV show Castle?
That's Nathan Fillion, right?
Yeah.
No, I never watched that one. That
and
was
the
missed
old
me.
Bond girl, Ivana Top, I believe her name was.
Ivana Top.
Yeah, you know how Bond girls.
Yeah.
Her name was like Rusky Ivana Top. Like she ended up playing, I guess the co-lead, and she was the detective.
Uh huh.
And Castle, Nathan Fillion was a writer, and they teamed up and would solve murders.
Ooh, okay.
So, given your new purchase,
this
that I've been interested in.
Yes.
Almost bought myself.
I would, everyone out there listening, like, what the hell are they talking about?
What are they talking about?
I will give them a free plug, just cause. There is this new game that is out there. You may have heard of it. It's called Hunt a Killer. You can find out more about it at huntakiller.com. Let them know that you heard about it right here on the Pewtercast. But basically, they send you this box like once a month, and it's got like clues, and you're helping solve a murder investigation. It's like a whodunit kind of a thing. And I just got the first box, so I don't know if it's any good yet or not. But we'll find out. We'll find out real soon here.
It looks very high quality.
It is. I can attest to that. Looking through the first box, I mean, the stuff that they create. I mean, it's obviously all fictional, but the stuff that they've created, like it looks pretty genuine. But with that, guys, Hunt a Killer should be a lot of fun. But Ren, we are not here to talk about Hunt a Killer. You got to do something today that I unfortunately was going to be able to do, but family circumstances prevented me from doing it. Tell us about it, buddy.
I was at OTAs today.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought from what I'd read earlier, it was supposed to be, from what I understood, it was the last day that media was going to be there for OTAs. And I will tell you what, we'll get into it a little bit later, coming up on, it's different. It is a different everything practices with Bruce Arians and his staff than it was from Dirk Cutter.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard anything about it. Just so as the listeners are hearing about it, I'm going to be hearing about it for the first time too. So I can't wait to get into that. Ren, that is what we're going to be talking about on today's episode of the Pewtercast.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. Hot air balloon that could go to space with the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Welcome back to the Pewtercast. Ren, as you mentioned in the opening of the show, buddy, you got to be out at OTAs. But before we get there, just one bit of news that I feel like we need to cover, at least mention briefly. Our last episode, titled Goodbye Gerald McCoy, we recorded really right on the heels of the news of Gerald McCoy getting released by the Buccaneers. We knew then that, at least the rumor was, is that they'd pretty much already struck a deal with Ndamukong Suh, and turns out we were right. And Ndamukong Suh is now a Buccaneer. He's supposed to report on Thursday of this week. As we record this, it's Tuesday, so as people listen to this, probably tomorrow. He's supposed to report. But Ndamukong Suh replacing Gerald McCoy. He is now officially a Buck. Your thoughts, good sir?
I think it's the best we could hope for. If losing Gerald McCoy is the given.
Yeah.
I kind of alluded to, or compare it to, I guess I should really say, to the Bruce Arians hire. Like, if Dirk Cutter, you can't change the fact that Dirk Cutter gets fired. Okay. That's where we are. Who's the best coach to fit in with this team and with the organization? And without a doubt, it was Bruce Arians.
Sure.
And now, if we lose Gerald McCoy, like that, you can't change that at all. Who's the best player to slide in and take his place? And after the draft since the draft was over, Ndamukong Suh was the guy, and I really think it's going to be it's a perfect fit. Now all these questions out there about his effort, and the guy can play. He showed it in the playoffs. He showed it in the Super Bowl. We shall see when he gets here. Like you said, he's supposed to be here Thursday. We might be getting pictures of him and probably hear from him Friday, because the media actually gets the last day of OTAs this week too.
Okay. So
we could be hearing stuff as early as Friday from Suh down there at the Advent Health Training Center at formerly One Buccaneer Palace. So, like I said, it's the best. It's the best Buck fans could have hoped for.
Yeah, I got to tell you, a couple of first thoughts. When you look at the contract, because we now know the contract, it's something like $9.25 million. So the Bucs are saving a little under $4 million there, it seems like. And then I don't know, Ren. I've heard that there are incentives that could bump it up to 10. I've also heard that there are not incentives. Like, I've heard somebody specifically say there are not incentives that can do that. But either way, the Bucs are saving about $3 million, which gives them a little bit of cushion. It's not, hey, we've got $13 million added right back to our salary cap. Like, most of it really was eaten back up with this new contract. So what that tells me is this move about moving to Ndamukong Suh over Gerald McCoy was not necessarily just about the money.
No, it's also a lot about scheme.
Yeah, right. And I think one of the things that I was kind of saying before this whole thing went down is that if they move on from Gerald, it's really going to be more about the money than it is, most everything else. Like, I think I was very much under the impression that they'd be happy to stay with Gerald McCoy if they weren't in the salary cap situation that they were in. And I think I was probably wrong about that. That, it looks as if Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles and those guys really wanted to try to get somebody other than Gerald in there, not just because of the money. They're really looking to get that in there. However, if they couldn't find a replacement, and I think this is also very evident, you and I banged this drum, and we said this, they're not releasing McCoy until they have his replacement. And that's what took so long. They just didn't have his replacement. They didn't get it through free agency. They didn't get it through a trade. They didn't get it through the draft. And now they finally picked somebody up. You better believe they had this deal worked out with Ndamukong Suh before they actually released Gerald McCoy. Like, that was already in the works. It was already in the hopper. It just wasn't released yet. But I think those two things are very clearly evident. This was worked out before they had Gerald McCoy, and this really was more than just about the money.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know if people have been biting their tongues and waiting for Gerald to sort of get out the door and Suh to get in the door before they started bringing these things up, or until it actually, reality slapped them in the face and, was like, oh, Gerald McCoy actually is leaving. With Suh's versatility, who played nose, who played 3-tech, who played 5-tech, who actually stood up outside for the Rams last year. Given his versatility, he's a better scheme fit for Todd Bowles' defense. And when it was first announced, you've seen a lot of things like, well, it's a lateral move at best. Well, Gerald McCoy is a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. A lateral move is great. I mean, well, when do you
That's a good point. That's a fair point. Yeah. What do you want?
When do you lose a Ring of Honor player?
Yeah.
And then replace him with the exact same guy statistically? It just doesn't happen a lot. You might draft a guy and go, well, this guy's got all the potential in the world, but you're just basically drafting his negative, I guess. If where you look at a photograph, like people say, his yin to his yang. Well, whatever you want to do with these guys have been attached to the hip since the draft, and they just swapped him out. So again, I think it's the best possible situation if the constant is losing Gerald McCoy. But the scheme, I think, had a lot to do with it. People are now coming out saying that, McCoy could only play 3-tech, and that's based off really that's really if you're going to – for Gerald McCoy to be effective, you had to sort of build the defense around him in a 4-3 defense. But since we're not doing that anymore, it's a 3-4, and then you add in Suh's versatility, and then people are now talking about edge and toughness. Bruce Arians likes guys with edges. The defense has been soft for year after year. Not necessarily pointing the finger at Gerald McCoy as in you're soft,
right?
But something we talked about before, last pod, if you're the mouthpiece of the defense for almost a decade, if you're the leader of this defense for almost a decade, when the finger pointing starts, like, you're first in line.
Right.
That's where everything starts to get laid down at your feet. Now, however fans want to disperse that out and point fingers at everybody else, but it starts with the guy who opens his mouth the most.
Yeah.
And, so that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. And Ren, I know we try not to play the what if game too much on this show. But if Gerald if they had not found a replacement for Gerald, I don't think they would have cut him. Like, looking at it now, I think they would have, there's other things they could do to create cap space to sign their rookies and to have a little bit of cushion that they needed. There's other things they could have done. And, I think Gerald leaving this team was contingent upon having somebody else come in. And in this case, it was Ndamukong Suh. That worked out for him. Now, one more thing that I want to say about Ndamukong Suh before moving on, because I do want to get to OTAs. That's mostly what we're here to talk about today. Ndamukong Suh has a history. I think he at one point actually earned the title of dirtiest player in the NFL. You said he's like the photo negative of Gerald McCoy, and that way in so many different ways. Like that's going to be a big portion of it. This is not a player that I have ever liked. I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen him in games, and I go, I just don't like this guy. I really don't like this guy. But now he's a Buc, and we cheer for the Bucs, and this guy's going to be a Buc. So for me, and I'm just putting this out there, anybody else, I don't know how you guys feel about Ndamukong Suh, what your history is with him, but for me, now that he's a Buccaneer, I'm finding myself in a spot where I kind of have to lay that aside, give him a sort of a fresh slate, which is what Bruce Arians does a lot of times, right? Like he's been infamous for giving people another chance and all that kind of stuff. Like I've got to lay that aside because he's our starting 3-5, whatever technique whatever he's doing in this defense, he's gonna be it, and he's our guy now. Like it or love it, hate it, whatever, he's our guy. And with that baggage, it's gonna be there. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be an interesting season watching this guy for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're on The View now. We're hosting The View. How
we turn the estrogen up a little bit.
No, what I'm saying is like somebody in, pop culture, Hollywood, music business, whatever, does something stupid, and The View will blast them. Like, just blast them for a full 2 segments. But if one of those people happens to be someone who's been on the show a lot, or one of the people on the panel know personally, they don't get blasted as hard.
Okay, I have a question.
I got a question. I don't condone what happened, but I know this person personally, and they're a better person. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I got a question. How do you know this much about The View?
Oh, Cheryl. It's torture. It is absolute
Ren
torture.
is tuning in every day at 9 o'clock. Click, click. ABC. God. I don't even know what time it comes on. All right, Ren.
It's torture, Ren. It's torture.
Yeah, so, I don't know. We'll see.
So anyway, about Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that stuff.
Sure.
But I understand it because it took me a long time to get over thinking that Gerald McCoy was going to be a bust. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a long string of draft picks between sort of the silver age of Buccaneers football, the Brooks, the Sapps, the Lynches, those guys, the number 1 picks, number 2, second round, third round guys that worked out and, got together and made the Super Friends and made their Super Bowl run. And when that era ended, there was some times where, these tie picks just didn't work out. Like it was bust after bust after bust. Mm-hmm. And there was also a time that happened right after sort of the Leroy Selman, Doug Williams guys, till we got to the John or the Tony Dungy. Mm-hmm. That area too was sort of like bust, underwhelming, bust. And with Gerald McCoy missing, he didn't miss all of his first 2 years, but he missed a big chunk of his first 2 years by tearing his biceps. Right. So when he comes in the third year, and you're like, oh, who is this? It's just another bust. It's another guy who's just going to get hurt. So he had a lot of hurdles to overcome before I endeared myself to Gerald McCoy as this guy actually is a really good player. I get it. And I think that's what happened with Suh. You know, he didn't play for our team. So the only stuff you saw was him stomping on people, you know, giving forearm shivers to quarterbacks' heads and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that stuff, most of it happened when he was in Detroit. You know, that will be 3 teams ago now.
Okay.
So I try not to quickly judge other players on other teams because one day I might be in this exact situation.
Sure. And you bring up a good point, and I can't answer this. I really can't. Is when was the last time that he had a dirty play? Like, was it with the Rams last year, or was it with the Dolphins before that?
I'm sure it was, but what's dirty though? I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like when he egregiously steps on somebody, or I mean,
he hasn't done that since a Lion.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean. So if this is a situation where he, you know, yes, he did this back then, but this isn't something he's done for a lot of years. Are we still going to hold his feet to the fire over that? I mean, we talked about that with the whole Jameis Winston thing. Like, these things happened years and years and years ago. Are we, you know, and I don't want to rehash all that. But anyway, Ndamukong Suh, either way, he's a Buccaneer now. Getting behind him, fresh slate as far as I'm concerned.
He'll be happy to hear that.
Do what?
He'll be happy to hear that.
I'm sure it'll make all the difference in his world. You know, he'll breathe a sigh of relief knowing that Brent Allen from the Pewtercast is giving him a fresh slate.
Smiling ear to ear on his transatlantic flight.
He's nudging his new fiance, saying, "Baby, we made it."
These guys from the Pewtercast, forgive me.
All right, Ren. All right. Well, enough of that, Ndamukong Suh. All right, let's talk about OTAs. Now, you and I got to go to a few of these last year. I certainly know what it's like. If you've ever been to a practice at One Buccaneer Place before, that's pretty much it, just with fewer people. Like, that's generally how OTAs go. You go out there, you stand around, you make a good guess at what they're doing. You look around, look who flashed today, and look who flashed there, which just means they made a play with like half the team on the field, and that's about it. So I'll be honest with you. This whole offseason, I'm kind of like, all that stuff of who flashes and who does this and who's that, I don't even care right now. Like, I'm going to wait till the season. But I'm curious, you know, take us inside. You said it's different this year, Ren. So walk us through what's practice like. What is your assessment of, you know, the vibe for the team, like what's happening? Bruce Arians' new regime installed. Take us there, buddy.
Well,
and then you said you got some breaking news.
Oh yeah,
you've got a scoop. You're going to scoop everybody else. I hope we're the first ones out with it. So
I think we will be. Now, I guess I'll start with that.
Okay,
because that's the best thing. I know, and we're talking about Justin Evans, everybody. Once the decision about Kendall Beckwith.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let's back up, and just in case people are new, they're not sure with what happened to Justin Evans. Last year, he goes out with an injury. He actually got put on IR for the remainder of the year, I think, with turf toe or something like that.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, it was a toe injury.
It was a toe injury,
and the phrase turf toe has been thrown around.
Okay, and that lasted. I mean, that put him on IR for the rest of the season last year, and then all throughout off season, they've been doing their workouts. I know there's been some questions about whether or not he's been practicing or not practicing.
He has not practiced once.
He has not practiced once. So that's where we are with Justin. What's going on with the toe? Kendall Beckwith, once that news came out.
Yeah, so the Kendall Beckwith news, you know, we were worried as Buck fans about Kendall Beckwith and what's going to happen with him because, quite frankly, the Bucks with or without Kendall Beckwith, I think would have really changed where they went in the draft in round 1. If Kendall Beckwith was healthy, I think, you know, maybe Ed Oliver might have been the pick. Mm-hmm. Not that they wouldn't address linebacker later on, but I think if Kendall Beckwith is healthy and on the team, I don't think Devin White's here. So once we found out that, you know, he was being put on the PUP or whatever acronym it is, that you're on the team but you're not going to play. It's like non-football related injury list. Immediately, you, me, and a lot of Bucs fans went, okay, that stinks. Now what about Justin Evans? Because he missed a big portion of the end of the season. And like we just talked about, he hasn't practiced since. And there hasn't really been a lot of talk about him, a lot of buzz about him. I put out on Twitter last night around this time, like, it was like, hey, like, I remember not being able to ask my questions to, you know, the head coach, the quarterback, of my favorite team, like if you guys have some questions and I like them, I'll try to squeeze them in. And I think it was the first one I got, and it was about Justin Evans. And I'm like, boom. I'm like, that's it. He's like, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that's a great one. I'm going to find out. But I didn't have to ask the question because, as sitting, like standing around there and watching these guys go through individual drills for like the first half hour practice, it's not Avengers Endgame. No. It's not. It is not riveting theater. So, we've been lucky enough to build some relationships with the beat writers from different outlets and stuff. And so I'm bebopping around and saying hi to people and saying hi to Greg and asking about Riley and talking to Mark Cook from Pewter Report and, saying hi to Scott Smith. I saw Carmen, but I didn't get to say hi to her. But I get into this conversation. I'm not going to say who. I spent a lot of time with them. And, we talked about things like, are we going to find out this year that really quick that it was the players, not the coaches, or the coaches, not the players? Like, are we going to find that out real quick? And we talked about that. And, and we talked about, are you scared about the quote unquote thinness of the defensive line? What about the linebacking core? Nobody in the secondaries had a good year ever. So just sort of, problems and thing. We're talking about drills and stuff. And then I finally get around to Justin Evans and I just say it. I go, is Justin Evans going to play football ever again? And they look at me and they go, that was something that I was really worried about. So I had to get the bottom of it. And this is what I found out. And after he told me, I go, can I talk about that? And we had a discussion back and forth exactly what I can say. Okay. So, sources. No, so this is what I heard.
I'm about to press mute so you can give me the whole thing. But go ahead, Ren.
So this is what I've heard. A lot of Buck fans are worried because there has been very good Hall of Fame type players that have had to retire because of turf toe.
Sure.
Now, if you get a toe injury, you don't think you're going to be sidelined for 6, 7, 8, 9 months like Justin Evans has.
Right.
Here's the official word from someone who was worried about it, dug in, and got the official word from the organization.
Okay.
Justin Evans is sitting out not because of his toe. It's something different.
Oh.
So you can take that as the toe is fine. The toe is healed.
Okay.
He has picked up some other injury that we do not know about.
Okay, so he is sitting out due to injury, though. This isn't a Bruce Arians mind game that we're talking about, where people are freaking out because of, Vernon Hargraves or something.
He's recovered from his toe injury.
Okay.
It could be tweaked his hamstring.
Right.
He could be in concussion protocol. He could have a paper cut on his pinky.
Okay. Now, are you giving those as an example, and you really know because the source was able to tell you that? Or is it really just the limit of the toe's fine, this is something new, and we don't know what it is yet?
That is correct.
All right. So, Justin, do we have any idea of a recovery timeline or anything like that?
I was going to ask Bruce that, hey, I came up with the phrase soft timeline.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do you think, Justin Evans and blah, 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 or do we have something of a soft timeline? I also heard sitting around the campfire today, he could be back as soon as minicamp, which starts next week.
Okay.
So, if you're a Bucs fan, you're worried about Justin Evans, he could be back next week. And from what I've talked to, the several conversations I've had around One Buc Place.
Oh, yes. The official, the insider, add him to the lineup there, Pat Donovan.
The official powwow. The scuttlebutt is...
No, Ren. The Scuttlebuck.
Which is coming back, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, breaking news. Scuttlebuck podcast.
It's not breaking news. I heard it off his bits.
Oh, okay.
Off his pod today. I would fully expect that Justin Evans will be there for training camp. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts.
So, remind me, Ren, I know we talked, and a lot of people have talked about, Jason Light included, that Justin Evans had a down year this past year. And honestly, at this point, so much of last year was a down year that I don't remember everything. Was Justin Evans' down year attributed to this toe injury, or was there more going on? Like, what are we... And let me preface this because, sure, we all know at this point, they go in and they basically redrafted, it seems like, the entire secondary. You know, they spent a lot, right? Like, we've had a lot of very high draft capital spent in the defensive secondary over the last couple of drafts. Mm-hmm. This one included a lot of high draft capital. You know, is Justin Evans that? Are we looking at retaining him as the starting safety? Is he being replaced? Like, any idea right now? I know, you know, he's been injured and not playing, so.
That is a question. Now, I've heard people that, you know, I've heard podcasts, ones that don't follow the Buccaneers or are, you know, beat writers for the Buccaneers say that their two best safeties may be Whitehead and this kid we got out of Kentucky.
Oh, Edwards?
Yeah, like those might be the two best safeties on the roster. Now, they talked about Justin Evans, if you remember, there was a big question mark about his tackling ability coming out of college from Texas A&M. I really haven't seen that. I don't remember seeing I don't remember seeing Justin Evans miss a lot of tackles, or at least enough where it popped up on, you know, my radar. Where like, hey, you know, this is a problem. It needs to be fixed. So, but that was sort of the reason they gave. I still have the feeling that the Bucs are high on Justin Evans. It's just with this Todd Bowles defense and sort of the Dawan Buchanan position, the hybrid nickel
that
linebacker
thing,
moneybacker stuff. Yeah. I think that you need, you know, 3 starting safeties.
Okay.
You know, those are the type of guys. So depending on what they want people to do, and also I have no problem trying to upgrade. Like
exactly. Yep.
You know, it's like you're always looking to do not be afraid to draft very good players just because you have a good player.
Yeah, it's good policy. Always be willing to upgrade a position. Always. So, all right, Red. So that's Justin Evans. That's the scoop on him. We should see him back as early as minicamp, which is next week. Definitely by training camp. And the toe is no longer an issue.
I don't want to say definitely by training camp. Yeah. I'm saying I guess
that's the feeling.
Do not take this to the bank.
Fantastic. Okay.
But do not be surprised.
Right. Don't get to training camp and see Justin Evans out and be like, damn it, Ren, you promised he'd be back.
Yeah.
Why did you lie to me? Don't do that. Like
what the media did to Cutter his first year. Remember? He went from minicamp and said, oh, yeah, everyone will be back, you know, by training camp.
Yeah.
And like 3 people weren't back, and one of them was Sweezy, and every day it was like, hey, where's Sweezy? Hey, where's Sweezy?
Hey, he said he'd be back.
Where is he? And then I think like very first OTA practice press conference the year after that, Cutter's like, I don't talk about injuries. I learned that last year.
Right. All right, Ren. So there's that with OTAs, but there's a lot of other stuff that happened. The only thing that you have told me before we started recording is it's really hard to follow anything that's happening out there this year. So, you know, take our listeners, our audio podcast listeners, put us inside of a practice for the Buccaneers this year. What's going on out there?
Sure. One thing that's different, last year you could sort of walk out on the field whenever you wanted to. You know, say the practice started at 10:30, but if you wanted to come out of the media room and get out of there on the field like at 9, you could. 9:30 you could. 10, you know, anytime you really wanted to. This year, you know, because I'm kind of looking at my watch, and you know, practice starts at quote unquote 10:30, and it's like 10:28, and no one's making a move. Like no one's making a move to go outside, and I'm like, is it really that hot out there today, or like? And then 30 seconds later, my question gets answered. Someone comes in. It's like, all right, guys, come on, you know, let's go on out there.
One of the PR guys came in.
Yeah,
corralling everybody. Yeah.
It's like, all right, now basically you're allowed to go out there now. And when we got out there, like they were already, I'm sure they did their stretches or whatever, but they were already in practice mode. Like drills were already going on. They started out, they were doing kickoff coverage. You know, the quarterbacks were over on the far field, just kind of throwing the ball. They're throwing giant yoga balls at them, like rolling them at their feet.
Oh, really?
And stuff. Wow. Yeah, just little.
Did it look like what you and I would know as it's football practice.
Yeah,
like go to any high school, watch football practice. Like, I mean, obviously this is a professional level deal, but I mean,
everyone's a lot bigger.
Yeah, but it's football practice, right?
Yeah, it's football practice.
Yeah,
you know, the linemen were working on some drills.
Hey, what music were they playing? Oh, hey.
Yeah, no music. I didn't really notice it. I liked it because you could hear, the positional drills that are a little closer to you. Right. You could hear the back and forth, or mostly just the coaches talking and what they were looking for and why someone was doing something wrong. Surprise, surprise, Caleb Benenoch got bitched at the first 2 drills he ran, and it was the same drill. He got it wrong the first time, got it wrong the second time. No one's shocked by that.
I got to tell you, Bruce Arians came out and he said, hey, you can't coach these guys if you got the music playing. You got to be able to talk to these guys. And it was one of those things I can remember the last couple of times we were out, last couple of years, however long it's been, of having that same thought, like with as loud and stuff as the music is, like these guys are going out. It seemed like they were going out just going through the motions. Like they all knew what they were going to do. Like, here's the script. Here's what you're going to go do it, and then come back inside. Rather than actually taking it as a practice and getting coached up and perfecting technique and things like that. So,
that was definitely the feeling for sure.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of practices last year over the last 2 years, and you would notice what you said is pretty much spot on. Mm-hmm. You notice that almost right away. Like the offensive line coaches were talking about which foot you should be on when contacting, the dummy, which would have been the player. Mm-hmm. It'd be like, nope, you did it wrong, Boozer. You got to be on your left foot, and they do it again. Nope, Boozer, left foot. Like when you make contact, your left foot's got to be forward. Stuff like little stuff like that, which maybe they were saying it under the Cutter administration.
We just wouldn't know.
You couldn't hear it.
Right. And to that effect, if you've never been at these practices, where the line is that they allow the media and even the fans, like when they do open it up and let fans come in, from the line there to where the actual players are, like it's a pretty good distance. They're not like right next to you. So, if there is music playing, it's possible they could be talking to each other in a closer, they're closer to each other, and you just can't hear it because of the distance. Yeah.
If they're 10 feet away and they're talking in a normal conversation, you can't hear them.
Not with the music, you couldn't.
No, not with the music.
Right.
I was probably 50 to 60 feet away, and I could hear today, and I could hear everything that the coach was saying to the offensive lineman.
There you go. I think that goes to prove a lot of the point. I wonder how oversold the idea of music is. Because we hear about it. Like, Bruce Arians talked about it when he was on his year of being in the booth, and he'd go around from place to place to place to place. It's like everybody's got music out these days. It's like everybody's doing it. It's like I just don't know how I'm going to do it, and so far it seems like he's not. So, all right. Anyway, so you're out there, you're listening to him.
Yeah. So it's just normal stuff. It was really hard to sort of find stuff to look at, and here's why. Because the most exciting things that happen is when they start doing 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s,
which was true last year as well.
Yes,
you sit around, you wait for the 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s, and then the kicking drill. Outside of that, it's very boring.
Yes.
Well,
the way Bruce Arians does practice is he lines up the entire team in between the 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s and the media. So you can't see. And so it's a lot of like,
okay? Is he doing that on purpose so that you can't see, or is that this is just where he wants you? And
well, you're only allowed on the sidewalk. Now I know you know what that means.
Sure.
I guess to sort of paint a picture.
That's different from last year.
Yeah, you were allowed to walk around. But when the fans come, I think it's going to really change because the media is going to be able to go where the fans are. But this was what Dirk Cutter had was, quote unquote, sort of the during the season, was you had to stay on the cement. So basically you have One Buc Place Advent Training Health Center, and then you go out the doors and there's like 20 feet of cement, of patio basically that runs along the whole back of the building. Now, give it another 10, 15 yards, then you have the end zones of the 3 fields. Okay? So anywhere on that patio that runs behind the end zone of those 3 fields, you're allowed to sort of walk on. But also during training camp was something that Cutter only did during the regular season. You can only take pictures and video during the first 30 minutes of practice.
Which was basically all warm-ups anyway.
Warm-ups, walkthroughs, one-on-ones, no 7-on-7, no 11-on-11. And they'll come around and tell you, like, okay, shut it down. That's enough. That's all you get for today. Thanks, guys, blah, 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 blah. They did walk around and give us water. I thought that was nice. I got asked twice if I wanted water. I wanted water both times. It was
hot.
I didn't get that in. I was supposed to start with that.
Yeah.
It's hot. I got to get in my hey, I'm a media guy and it's so hot out here line in.
Go ahead, bitch about the weather in Florida, during early parts of summer. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Right. What do you do for a living? Oh, I watch football practice. Oh, yeah. Yeah, your life's terrible. Your life's so terrible.
It's hot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so they gave us water, but when they did the 11-11 and 7-on-7s, you're not allowed to film, and you can't see. I mean, you have to really pay attention to see who the quarterback is. This is what I bet you cannot do. You cannot look out there and be able to tell me who's on the line, who the quarterback is, and who the running back is, and who the wide receivers are. You can't. You don't have enough time. It's like you can go, okay, who are the wide receivers on the left side? And you have to make a couple steps left, couple steps right to be able to see through the trees. Okay, I see Mike Evans. Oh, okay, I see Justin Watson's out there. The quarterback is Jameis. Like, who's the running back? I can't even see who the running back is. Like, where's the running back? You can't see the defensive line at all.
Yeah.
I can't see them at all. Can't see the linebackers at all. What you see is like the safeties because they're further back, and the outside corners because they're a little further away and off the ball. Mm-hmm. And you see the quarterback drop back. You see him throw the ball. You have to kind of duck and look and move around and see if the person caught it or not. So as far as a media standpoint, that kind of stinks. Sure. I understand why they do it. If I was a head coach, I'd probably do the same thing.
Sure.
But the energy and the communication, and it's almost like the camaraderie and almost the level of competition feel like it's been ratcheted up this year.
Yeah, it's a weird thing when you talk about OTAs, minicamp, training camp, and things like that, because really what you're starting to talk about is what's the feel. Like it's just what's the aura in the atmosphere. Like that's really almost all that you really can go to, because everything else is so like, well, you can't really judge the offensive line because they're not really hitting and they're not really getting after anybody. You can't judge the defensive line because they're not really trying to get after the quarterback at that point. And with that, then you can't really judge the running backs or the wide receivers because they don't have all this extra pressure or anything like that. It's hard to judge, because it's not game realistic, right?
Yeah.
And you have that all as a caveat. So, Ren, when we ask about the feeling, the aura, and I know that was a topic of conversation the last couple of years under Cutter, not just under Cutter, but also under Lovey and under Raheem and under Schiano. I think if you,
but it's like you said, it's just the thing that you talk about this time of year,
right? So what is it right now? Like, I think if you go back and
it's good. It's fine.
But I mean, like Raheem, like the impression you get with that is everybody's chummy, buddy. And then you get to Schiano and it's militaristic. Mm-hmm. And you never got the sense that anybody was having any fun.
Right.
And then you get under Lovey and it almost seemed like nobody knew what the heck they were doing, or, the animals are controlling the farm or whatever you want to call it. Under Cutter, it seemed like, flat up tempo, like it just kind of went back and forth. And,
a lot of
Yeah, a lot of So I know you've been out there for, all of one day, but
that's all it takes for me.
Right. Oh, you've got the whole pressure. How many games we won in this year, Ren? Go ahead. Tell us. Look,
21
games.
20.
Yes. 16 game season. We will achieve 21 games in week 17.
Yeah.
I like it. Take
the over.
But so, I mean, is it upbeat? Like, do the guys seem to be gelling? Like, what's the?
It's when they get to the 7-on-7, 11-on-11s, you cannot tell.
Okay,
you just can't. Sure. But I will say that I think the competition is, I don't want to say more focused. I feel like everyone knows what's expected out of them.
Okay,
yeah, like it's. Everyone feels like they're on the same page.
Okay.
Sure. It just feels like everyone knows what they're doing. No one really seems lost. And they're the point that it's very early where they're comfortable enough and not worried about where they need to be and not making mistakes and getting the calls right. And already they feel like they're just out there playing. Mm-hmm. And when you're just out there playing, that's when it sort of becomes like the man-on-man and the competition really starts to ratchet up because it becomes like an even playing field.
Right.
Instead of like a quarterback out there that's been on the, knows this offense backwards and forwards, and he's throwing up, throwing up against a rookie defensive back, a rookie middle linebacker and a rookie safety, and he's just going to pick them apart. And, they're swimming, their heads are just spinning. Mm-hmm. But it just seems, I guess for lack of a better word, it just feels like they know what they're doing.
Okay. In a way that we haven't experienced in the last 3 years at least.
That's the vibe. It's like a confidence. It's It's not like, hey, we're going to win this many games, or hey, we're going to be a dominant team. It's just like we know what we're doing. Sure. And everyone's already pulling in the same direction.
All right, fantastic. Probably way too early to ask about things like how's Donovan Smith looking, and
right.
I mean, obviously anyone on the offensive line or defensive line really at this point.
That's good because I could not see a thing.
Yeah, it's probably way too early, and so Jameis. Let me ask about Jameis. So you were there. Yeah. I know we've seen pictures where he looks a little stouter. There's a lot of stuff going around this offseason. Oh, he's going to play at 250, the heaviest quarterback in the league. And he's like, guys, I was 5 pounds lighter last year. Right. Does he look bigger? Does he look stouter?
He looks slimmer.
He looks slimmer. Okay.
Yeah. He looks fine. I mean,
yeah.
He actually looked really good. And I don't mean about physically and everything, but it's like,
hey, I can say this. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, about Jameis, he has been added back into the Buccaneers marketing materials. I can tell you by some of the things that I've been receiving, he is right back. I know he was taken out last year due to the suspension and all that kind of stuff, but he is back in all the marketing materials. Guaranteed his face is going to be on the side of the stadium this year.
Yeah, I would have taken that bet months ago.
Sure.
But I'm with you. He looks better. I don't know if he's finally fully matured. And this is going to sound kind of weird, but his skin looks good. Like he doesn't look blotchy. Okay. He doesn't have any pimples and stuff like other years he's had. You know what I mean? It's just like now he's
oddly, I really do. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just he looks like
he's lost his baby face a little bit.
Yeah. His face is starting to fill out, and I don't mean fill out as in like baby fat, but like starting to get more chiseled. He's really starting to get into his man years, he looked good. He really did. He looked like the best.
He's not running out doing some goofy like backflip or something like we've seen him do before in the past, and
it's like
he's going to break his leg when he comes down.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Right.
But I was 3 feet away from him today during his interview, and you sort of heard the same things that you always hear from Jameis, but I feel like you would hear that from beginning to end. I think there was a few questions in there where he's now comfortable enough with the media and trusts the persons who ask the questions, because now this is like his 5th year with Almond, his 5th year with Jenna, his 5th year with Scott, his 5th year with Isbitz and Ira, and he knows that to some extent these guys have their back. They're not out looking to take shots at him. They're not out there actively looking to protect him either. But I think there's a trust there, so it just felt like he was opened up a little more. He's more relaxed,
right?
And that's not really hard because last year he was coming out. His first interview was like, "Oh, hey, look, you're going to be gone for the first 4 games. Congratulations! Would you like to talk about that, Jameis?"
Right.
Oh, by the way, you're the 3rd string quarterback.
Right. Now, how much? But I mean, do you have any sense at all of how much that has to do with the idea of Bruce Arians coming in and immediately saying, "This is Jameis's team. He's our number 1 guy." There is, he's got the full backing of his head coach. Where, with Cutter,
Jameis was the only guy that Cutter had no problem throwing under the bus. He wouldn't throw Jameis under the bus a lot, but he would never throw anyone under the bus. But he would throw Jameis under the bus, from time to time. Now, do I think that's why? I have no idea. Yeah. I think it has more to do with that you're coming to training camp and it's your team and not necessarily the head coach going, "Hey, I believe in you." But you're not facing a 4-game suspension. And, oh, by the way, you got to go in front of the media and talk about it.
Right.
After practice.
Right. But I mean, I even think about 2 years ago before the suspension, like the year before, the Hard Knocks year, right? And Cutter's got Jameis in his office saying, "Hey, shoot, this is the most talented group on paper that we've had since."
If we don't win, it's your fault.
Right. And I mean, it's Cutter had Jameis's back, quote unquote. Then, I mean, who else is he going to go with? Like, Jameis is the starting quarterback on the team. He's not going to, they're not bringing in competition for Jameis under those situations. So, like, Cutter had his back, quote unquote. But, I don't know. There's certainly something different. All right. Question for you: did you see anybody, particularly by Bruce, but I'll take any coach, anybody getting yelled at? Anybody getting turned upside down?
Caleb Bendernock twice, like right away.
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah.
He was about the only guy I saw get yelled at. And, and most of I shouldn't say yelled at. And Bendernock really wasn't yelled at. I just, I'm psychologically down on the kid.
Sure.
Because of what he did to us last year.
When he was playing in a spot that wasn't supposed to be his natural spot.
I would like to say, through no fault of his own, but right. I can't. It was. But more, I wouldn't say yelled at. It was more a lot of corrections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And once again, I don't mean to harp on this, but when they got to 11-on-11s and 7-on-7s, you couldn't see, and then you would hear coaches yelling, but you can't see the coach, so you don't know who he's pointing at. Mm-hmm. And if he's not like, hey, Vernon Hargraves, number 28, where were you on that drill? Or where were you on that play? Like, if you just hear, where were you on that play? And you don't even know who said it because you can't see him, mm-hmm. then you don't know, was he talking to the Gatorade guy? Like, who's he, so as far as people getting chewed out, I didn't see any of that. I saw a lot of corrections, a lot of coaching.
Okay.
On the drills. Like, you remember they would like a defensive line drill. They were always close to sort of the cement and the reporters. And they just like, all right, this is what you do. And they just run through it, not really trying to correct them, not trying to, get the form right or try to get exactly what you wanted out of that drill. It was just, okay, run the drill. Mm-hmm. With this crew, on all the drills that were closest to me that I watched, they were constantly making little tweaks and like hand placement and which leg goes up first and, off ball hand, a lot of stuff that, they're working on it.
A lot of the stuff you're talking about honestly sounds like a lot of the criticisms that a lot of people have had about Donovan Smith on the offensive line anyway. What
do you mean?
Well, at least like his footwork has never been great with Donovan Smith.
His footwork is fine. He just gets lazy and punches.
And he does, sure. But I mean, it's I don't know. I think I remember hearing Derek talk about that quite a bit on What the Buck. He talked about how his footwork was never great. My biggest complaint about Donovan Smith is it never seemed like he played through the whistle. Although they talked about it. That was the thing they always talked about. Is you play to the echo of the whistle, and
you just don't do it.
You're right. Yeah. He just didn't.
Little Gerald McCoy syndrome there.
Sure. But
talk about all the stuff that you do, and then you didn't do it.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
It's
over now, Rex. It's over, Ren. He's gone. He's gone until he comes back, so he can retire. He's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? The first thing I thought when I saw that video. First, I thought the video was great.
Sure.
And the end part.
Look at you giving Gerald McCoy some props. Look at you.
Hey, I did on Twitter. I'm like, Gerald McCoy says goodbye. Only way Gerald McCoy does good stuff. Like, I don't dislike the guy. I just don't. I don't like his self-promotion. I don't like his leadership style.
Liz, what we're talking about right now, if you haven't seen it, it's on Gerald's Instagram account. It's probably on his Twitter account somewhere as well. I think it's Stroud and Allman both have done articles about it where they embedded the video. He sent out a goodbye video.
Right.
And you guys should go watch it. And he says at this point, he will be back. He will retire as a Buck.
Now, why would he say that, Brent?
Because he wants to retire as a Buck.
Why does he want to retire as a Buck?
Oh, to get in the Ring of Honor?
Already pitching for the Ring of Honor on the day he leaves.
Wow, listen at you. Well,
you don't think he's a slam dunk Ring of Honor guy. I do.
Right.
But you know. But if he retires a Buck, don't you gotta put him in the Ring of Honor?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's telling you, man, he's a smiling snake.
Right.
Telling you.
Right. Who was the last person? There was somebody who came back and retired as a whatever. Was it Favre? Like Brett Favre? Like, he went out and did a bunch of stuff. It's not like a one-day contract with the Packers, so to retire as a Packer.
Probably.
Like that. Yeah.
A lot of guys have done that. Jerry Rice, I remember, did it. Went back to 49er, so he retired 49er.
Right.
All that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
guys do it all the time.
Listen, if that's what he wants to do and the organization wants to do it for him, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't.
Well, he's getting up there for two reasons. One, his community work and his ultimate teammate and company man sort of, thing. Like, that's going to go a long way with the Glazers. And they don't have a guy since Malcolm has passed. Like, they don't have their own guy.
I mean, seriously, think about it. Like, post Super Bowl team, all right?
He was it.
There is nobody else currently.
No.
Like, I mean, and they're running out of guys. Like, Rondé's going up this year. You got maybe a handful of guys from the creamsicle days that could still get in. James Wilder. And
has to go.
I could see Ricky Bell going. There's an argument why he shouldn't, but I could certainly see why.
He's not up there?
No. Ricky Bell was in the
captain's crew or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they had in the old stadium. Yeah. He was part of that. So I could see Ricky Bell being a guy that goes in. I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan during the creamsicle day, so I don't know all those guys. Hardy Nickerson's probably a guy that we could see in there one day. But outside of that, I mean, we're kind of running out of people. So, just by we got to put somebody else in factor, well, let's put it in McCoy. But, obviously that's going to be after he retires and all that kind of stuff. Well, we'll talk about that then. Right now we're talking about OTAs. Let's bring it back.
Sure.
Was there anything else? I mean, we've talked for an hour about how boring OTAs are. So
yes, and hot.
and
hot and boring.
So the golf cart. Bruce Arians running around in a golf cart today?
I didn't see not Bruce Arians at all.
Didn't even see him.
Didn't even see him until walking off the field to go inside and cool down a bit, and then he came back out for his presser.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get to that.
But I wasn't looking for him either.
Sure. So let's go ahead and get to that. After practice.
Oh, by the way, this two fields practice stuff.
Yeah.
Not today.
Not today?
Because they did, like I said, they opened up with doing kickoff coverage. Sure. And they were doing a lot of things with that, and then back to individual drills, and then kind of like 7-on-7, 11-on-11s. No two fields. Mm-hmm. No two fields.
So the way I've heard it,
so no one not like Jameis and is it Fitzpatrick or Kirkpatrick?
Who?
We do have another Fitzpatrick.
The
camp arm that we might turn into like a hybrid weapon guy at Texas A&M. Is it Kirkpatrick or Fitzpatrick? Anyway, it wasn't like Jameis and him on one field and then
Gabbert,
Griffin
and
on the other, and they're running these drills, like none of that. So maybe that's a training camp thing,
right? I've heard them talk about that. I've heard people talk about like they have like the varsity side and the JV side.
Yeah.
Though they specifically did that indoor when they did that on an indoor day. So, but not today. You didn't see that today.
No.
All right. So let's get to it. I know that. Obviously, I think there was they had some guests there at OTAs today.
Oh yeah, they had. I guess the Wounded Warrior Games are this week, sometime in Tampa.
Okay.
So they had some of the athletes out there, and just about every player stopped by. They had some footballs they were signing, stopped by, and talked to them. And Mike Evans, who wasn't practicing today. A lot of guys didn't practice today.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians talked about like Memorial Day barbecue. Like everyone was hungover. Like no Jensen. I didn't see Cap. I didn't see Cap at all. I didn't see Watford at all. A lot of offensive linemen are out. Mike didn't practice. Cameron Brate's still nursing his injury. We talked about Justin Evans. There was quite a few guys that didn't practice.
Yeah.
But Mike Evans and Jameis Winston make sure they were last in line, so they spend a lot of time with them. Yeah, so the Wounded Warrior Olympics or Games they call it. Basically, it's like an Olympics.
Right.
Is somewhere in Tampa this week and this weekend, and they had some of those guys come down there, meet the guys, get their balls signed, get their balls signed, take some photos and things like that. So that's always cool to see. With MacDill Air Force Base being right down the street. From Raymond James Stadium, the Buccaneers do a lot of stuff with the military, and
sure.
This is one of the better ones they've done.
Sure. So you had that, players signing autographs. There's all that, but this is kind of the part where when you get your media pass, this is when you really go to work. It's time for the press conferences. So who did you get in press conferences today? What'd you learn out of the press conferences? Yeah.
Well, we got Jameis and Bruce.
It was those two guys. Okay.
And I guess walking off the field, Channel 10 grabbed Via Vea. I went and listened to that a little bit. They were trying to get out of him. Are you going to benefit from someone like Ndamukong Suh that's not Gerald McCoy? That type of thing. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't take in the bait. I got to talk to Evan Smith a little bit. I'm pretty sure Kemper threw in there and talked about, hey, Sue's coming. Last time you saw him, he stomped on your balls. Any hard feelings? Of course, what's he going to say? He's like, yeah, next time I see that guy, I'm going to hit him with what, a 2x4? Like, what's he going to say?
Right.
So I guess that was
So what did he say?
I don't know. I didn't care.
Oh, okay.
I
could probably answer. I've not seen it, but I was like, oh, no hard feelings. Man. That's way back then. We're good.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. Tempers run hot out there.
Yeah.
I've done my fair share of things I don't want to talk about at the bottom of a pile.
Yeah.
Crap. Thanks. I saw Scott Smith walk over and have a little conversation with Anthony Auclair. But I talked about the
Auclair.
Anthony.
No, Ant. That's what they call him. Ant. Hey, Ant.
Why do they call him that?
You have to ask them that. Remember I said this on one of our special episodes last year. That was the scoop that I got. Hard-hitting journalism here from the Pewtercast.
There we go.
His nickname is Ant.
Ant. All right. Must have been a Pink Panther fan. So, and like I said, we got Jameis. He just seemed a little more comfortable, even though his speak hasn't changed that much. He just doesn't seem like he's searching for words. He's just more comfortable. I feel like there's a little more trust there.
Right.
And then with Bruce Arians, he was speaking very, very soft. I will send you the audio of that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure my recorder picked it up. But there wasn't a lot there. A little bit about that he normally keeps 4 tight ends, but one of them has to play special teams.
Right.
And if they can't, then they'll keep 3 and keep an extra linebacker or keep an extra nickel cornerback or some,
Sure.
These guys that are like, if you're the 4th tight end or you're the 4th running back or you're the 6th linebacker or you're the, 5th corner, you got to play special teams.
Right. Which, by the way, Cutter told us that for the last bunch of years too.
It's not a new concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Around the NFL. This is
okay.
Not,
so just because you bring that up, I'm trying to think through my head. All right. As far as tight ends go, we got O.J. Howard, Cam Brate, Ant Auclair, I guess is number 3.
Anthony.
Auclair. Yeah. Anthony Auclair. Who's after that? Do we have anybody?
Ernsberger's back.
Ernsberger from last year. Okay.
Even though I saw him get his hammy wrapped today.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
Unfortunately, there was no one out there to meet me, so I didn't get a lanyard. So I didn't have a press pass today, which is a little disappointing because you know how I like those.
We like to collect those.
And I also didn't get, and I couldn't find when they were lying around. I didn't get a roster.
Oh, the
like
roster
a piece
card?
of paper with the roster card with everyone's name and number on it. So I didn't get a roster card. So I'm not familiar as probably I should be about all these pickups and how many tight ends there are and around there.
Right.
So I am not prepared to go in and say who the top 4 tight ends are now.
We'll figure that out as we get into camp. So,
we got a lot of
but the leading 3 then, though, that anyone would know by name as a Bucs fan would be O.J. Howard, Cam Brate, Anthony Auclair, and then camp guys. That's really what we're looking at right now.
Right.
Yeah, there's not like a strong 4 right now. That would be
not that I can think of.
Yeah, that would
maybe.
be familiar with. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I don't know, Brad.
All right, Ren. Anything else from your day out at OTAs? Getting to talk to anybody else out there?
Did I mention that it was hot?
No. Tell us about that. Was the flag waving at all today?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't.
You didn't look up?
I didn't look up and to my right and almost behind me. I did not. It was fun to get back out there. It was fun to sort of reconnect with these people and swap some stories. I introduced myself to some new people. Someone asked me about my recorder and, because they were having a hard time picking up sound from BA because he was talking so quiet.
Sure.
It's like, that thing worked for you? I'm like, oh yeah. So, I played, act like I knew what I was talking about. And I'm like, oh yeah, blah, 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 eBay, this, that, whatever. But something I did get, which we'll probably play on our next episode, I got to sit down with the young guns from Peter Report. I asked them if I could get, like 10 minutes with them. So
not interns anymore, guys?
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins and Matt Matera.
Okay.
Sat down with those guys and got a little background like, hey,
sure.
If Buck fans out there listening, like you have their dream job,
Right.
How did you get here? Okay,
Right.
you went to college, go. So he talked to them, and then
did you warn them? Did you tell them, the last guy that was kind of in their shoes has been back-to-back winners of PewterCast's award for Media Personality of the Year as voted on by the fans?
I did not.
Tell them, they should be in competition.
I'm sure they're really sick
cool.
and tired. I'm sure they're really sick and tired of Trevor stories.
Being compared.
Yeah.
They're the new Gerald McCoy to Trevor's Warren Sapp.
Okay. Wow. That's a huge praise, but whatever. Trevor's certainly affable, but yeah, sure. Warren Sapp.
But we'll get to hear from Taylor and Matt Matera.
Yeah, and as you'll hear it in the audio, Mark and Scott came in because they're about to record their pod, which is out already.
Sure.
And so we get a little cameo from Mark Cook and Scott Reynolds near the end, and we didn't get to talk a lot about sort of what they feel about the team and coming up because I was biting it into their pod time.
Sure.
But these are guys that I think Buck fans should add on Twitter. Because the more people that are in the building you have access to can ask questions to, it can only help. So,
sure.
So on the next episode, look out for a short interview with Taylor and Mark, or Matt. Taylor and Matt, or Taylor and Mark. Matt
Cook, Matt Matera.
Okay, yeah.
Taylor and
Mark
Matt.
will be there too.
Mark will be there too.
Yeah.
All right, Ren. Well, man, it sounds like you had a big day. I'm sorry I missed it. I was hoping to get out there. It just didn't work out. But
how did the All-Star game go?
All-Star game, yeah. My boy is on the All-Star team. They lost by 1 today.
Was it like 19-20, or was it like 1-0?
No, it was 25-24 because that's the way T-ball works. Because we have an All-Star league for T-ball, but whatever. But yes, this was their first game of their All-Star league tournaments and stuff. So there's much more to go. This isn't the end.
There's much more to go.
There's a lot more to go. Yeah,
isn't it double elimination
for this tournament? But they have like 4 tournaments they're playing in this summer. So
why?
Because that's the way they do it. It's the way they're doing it. So,
is that so you pay more money? Is that what it is? Each tournament costs more money?
They do. We'll talk about more of that later offline. But for now, Ren.
Sounds like a Ponzi scam to me.
Well, listen, if you get us to play in one tournament and then get your friends to each play in their own tournament.
Summer, then fine. Don't pay the extra $50, Mr. Allen.
Ren, why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
The best way to find me is on Twitter at Ren Daxt, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football. But if you don't want to put yourself on blast, just go ahead and slide in my DMs and I will talk Buccaneers football with you there. I keep messing it up. I haven't done it so long. As well, too. I'm just finishing up as well, too.
Everybody take a drink.
Stay off Facebook.
Yes. And if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Brent Allen Live on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us at The Pewtercast or on Facebook at facebook.com/ThePewtercast. You can always email the show to thepewtercast@gmail.com. Ren, we got a new email in.
Yeah.
Real fast. Here it is. Short and sweet. Says, why would Gerald McCoy want to leave the Bucs? Because he wants to go to the playoffs. He wants to play on a winning team. That's it.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you, Jim, for sending that in.
That is not how you set up an email. That is not how you remind people what you're talking about. Apparently, Jim thinks we're going to know exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit. Like, I'm not actually, Jim. First of all, thank you for sending in an email.
Yes, thank you.
We actually don't know what you're referring to. I'm sure it was something that we said in a previous episode, probably the last one, titled "Goodbye, Gerald McCoy." We're just not really sure how to respond to that. But yeah, you're right. He wants to go. Who doesn't want to play for a team that's going to make the playoffs? And
apparently Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah. There you go. So, so you send us an email to like Ren or Jim. Send us an email like Jim did to thepewtercast@gmail.com. Do promise we always talk about, we'll read these and we'll comment on them as is appropriate. So, Ren, why don't we go ahead and get out of here? So with that, we'll close out the show as always. Go Bucs. Welcome back to the Pewter Cast. This is, I don't know what I'm saying here. Oh, here we go. I got it. All right.